Who is Melchizedek? Let's jump in and find out. But first, we need to establish some background information. As we move along our timeline, we come to a catastrophic event, the flood. God is righteous and pure. Man has become so wicked that God has no other choice but to destroy that which he had created. Genesis tells us everything that breathed and lived on dry land died. The only survivors of the earth are those who were on the ark, which were Noah and his wife, his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and all of their families, and of course, all the animals. All the folks that died in this event are represented by the red box in the pre-flood section. From the cross to the flood, we are looking at approximately 2,350 years of time. After the flood, and at the beginning of this 2,350-year time span, Genesis tells us God commanded humanity to increase in number and fill the earth, only to find out 3 chapters later that the human race decided to do exactly the opposite. Just as Satan has his I will statements, we discover humanity has that same boasting attitude. Well, the descendants of Noah had their let's us statements. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks, and then let us bake them thoroughly." Now they had bricks for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and let us build a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the whole earth." It appears they decided to build an enormous tower as a symbol of their power and to make a name for themselves. This tower is remembered as the Tower of Babel. An ancient Babylonian tablet records the tower as being 300 feet tall. That's about 29 stories tall. That's quite a building accomplishment for that day. Now, in response, God came down and muddled the language of humankind so that they could no longer communicate with each other. The result was that people assembled with other people who spoke the same language, and then went together and settled in other parts of the world. Do you realize that presently there are around 6,500 different languages spoken on the earth today? God wanted to enforce his command for people to spread throughout the entire world, and he did. Let's jump to our chart. Draw a green box on the earth in the post-flood section, which represents the Gentile nations. The story starts with Noah and his 3 sons. After the floods receded, God made a covenant with Noah. Noah's covenant is recorded in Genesis 9, verses 12 through 15. Yeah, they're the ones about the rainbow in the sky. God promises that despite humans' continued selfishness and evil, he will not destroy the world again with a flood. Next, Noah built an altar and sacrificed to God. It's a really good start for a new world. God blessed Noah and his sons, and God told them to have many children and fill the earth with your people, which they do. Now let's discover which of the sons is the blessed one. Genesis 9:26-27 tells us, "Then Noah said, May the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and may Canaan be his servant." Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. Let's fast forward about 340 years and see who is a descendant of Shem. Genesis 11:10 starts the genealogy of Shem, but we don't have to know all the descendants. We are just interested in one for now. After Terah, the 8th generation from Shem, was 70 years old, he became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Who is a well-known descendant of Shem? You guessed it, Abram. Abram, who later gets a name change to Abraham. God selects Abram from among the nations scattered at Babylon and makes a promise or a covenant with him. We need to draw a blue box on the chart. We'll do that in a few. But let me explain why we need this new box, or blue box, rather. From this point on, humanity is divided into two people groups, Gentiles and Hebrews. Gentile is a term which means the nations. At the beginning of this term was applied to all humanity, but when Abram was called by God, the second group appeared. These people were named Hebrews, also called Israel or Jews. Shem's descendants are not the only righteous people, or are they? After Abram rescued Lot from Chedorlaomer, Abram meets Melchizedek, who is the king of Salem, which is Jerusalem now, and a priest of the God Most High. There are two items we need to take note of in this statement, and they are that the man is a king and a priest of the Most High God. This by itself makes Melchizedek a unique being. In Jewish history, there has never been a king and a priest at the same time. The question is, was Melchizedek a Jew? The answer to that question is, we don't know, because the Bible does not specifically tell us. What we are told in the Bible is that Jesus is a priest in the order of Melchizedek, not Aaron or Levi. While Abram is considered the father of the Jews, they were not yet a nation at this time. The law had not yet been given to Moses. There are three theories as to who Melchizedek is. If you're a true literalist, take the Bible as it is written, then we have a king who is a high priest. This would support the theory that there are other righteous people on earth who had to be descendants of one of Noah's three sons. Another theory is Melchizedek is a title, not a name, such as Pharaoh is the title of the ruler of Egypt. This could possibly be that Melchizedek was Shem himself. He did live to be 600 years old, and means that he was alive for more than half of Abram's life, possibly being the one whom taught Abram, since Abram knew who he was and gave him the tithe, which was due him, according to what Abram had been taught. Lastly, some scholars propose that Melchizedek was actually a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus Christ. This is a possible theory, given that Abraham had received such a visit before. Consider Genesis 17:1, where Abraham saw and spoke with the Lord El Shaddai, in the form of a man. What? I thought that man could not see God and live. Well, consider Exodus 33:20. Moses asked to see God's glory, which he did, but only from the backside. We have no idea of the many facets of God, nor that of Jesus. One day, we will get to see them all. For more information on Melchizedek, refer to Genesis 14:18 through 20, Hebrews 5:6, 10, and 6:20, and all of chapter 7. Let's update our worksheet for today's lesson. The green box represents the righteous people who were descendants of Shem up to Abraham, the other righteous non-Jewish people. So to answer our beginning question of who was Melchizedek, I believe it was Shem. However, the Bible does not tell us specifically who he was. Strong cases can be made for any one of the three theories. You will have to decide for yourselves. Until next time, Shalom.